function when I set up the stream that I did not understand. And now that I do, I should have a much faster turnover, which is probably irrelevant. Your channel. There, am I live again? Mic check, mic check. All right, there we go. Going to test again. All right, well. Your channel, videos, live now, click, live now, click, test, live now, click, test. Latency is set at ultra low, and okay, that's a pretty quick turnover. I'm going to have to be content with that. I certainly don't want to waste any more time. So here's me wasting some more time. Studio, and we're going to go into here and my content and my okay, now I'm starting to understand how this stuff works. I think I can actually make it work. Save. Oh, this is pretty quick and efficient now. Good thing I'm stumbling around all this stuff is blurble. We're going to go to more actions equals delete forever equals delete forever. I understand. Delete forever. And then, okay, now we're actually back in it to win it. So my channel, and then videos, and then uploads, and no, instead we are live now, and click, and okay, great. So there we go. Jeez. All right, yep, I'll figure this stuff out in time. All right, so let's see, where were we at? We were doing some Leonin. Bloop, bloop. All right. Reduce that. There we go. There. All right, feels good. Different music. I've got this epidemic subscription going, and I am trying to figure out what music I like and don't, which is fun. There's a bunch of artists and stuff that I got picked out. All tracks equals. This will work. Hell yeah. This is cool. Yeah, I figure I've got a couple of different artists I have picked out, and I've started building a playlist, and I figure eventually one of them is going to stand out to me as something like there's like some of the ambient music and the chill mixes I really like. I love listening to chill music. ambient stuff while I'm painting, because it helps me find that flow state that we were talking about a lot easier. And I suspect there's going to be a couple different pieces that just really stand out to me as favorites, and I will probably figure out how to convert those like into an intro song thing, like when I actually start doing cards and stuff like that to have intro clips and stuff. So I know I'll get there, and like I like how Fry Mini has like a quick little blurb. That's really fun. I would not obviously duplicate that. It's not my style, but that's the kind of stuff that I want to get into. Like, I can see myself getting into music production eventually. But I mean, Epidemic's pretty inexpensive. It's a decent marketing expense. I spend more on some Patreon accounts than Epidemic costs me on a monthly basis. So easy win. All right, let's keep working on this. I gotta remember to zoom in the screen instead of pushing my face towards the monitor. Because pushing my face towards the monitor gets all glitchy on the cam. To start hitting the border of what it can see versus what's being blocked by my screen. Coffee time. It's 11:30 now. I probably have another hour of production left. Hell yeah, always time for coffee. Oh man, that mix is chill. Wow, that grind is cool. Oh, hell yes. Add that to the playlist. Oh, that's fat. Maybe if I drop some light. Ooh, that's what my girl was talking about. There, a little bit more natural light. I got a window like right here, so that should be able to help. I've got extreme light sensitivity, so it makes me all squinty all the time. This is why I always look angry. but it's winter in Seattle, so gray skies most of the time. Very rarely sunlight. It's actually really nice to be able to have some natural lighting in that doesn't immediately sting me. God, that's fat. This reminds me of some of the music that was on the Matrix soundtrack. That a bit, and then we're going to hit it with perspective tool, and then back to free transform, and then skew, there, easy peasy, right? So dope. I think I'm supposed to use keywords or something. I need to get in the habit of saying, you know, I'm working on the Elemental Key book. This is page 11 illustration. This is my third session of illustrating this page. Subscribe, like, blah de blah, tell your mother. Especially if you know anyone that's colorblind. Get them over here so that they can take a look at how colorblind people resolve painting in color. I remember when I was 5, I used to play Legos while Bob Ross was doing painting on Sunday mornings. And one of the episodes in particular, he was doing fan mail, and he got the question. It was from somebody who was colorblind, and the question was, how can I paint like that? I don't see color. And I mean, you know, God bless him. He's just using the tools that he has, and it was the 80s after all. So what else is he gonna do? His advice was, well, you can use all these techniques just using black and white paint. And then he went through the effort of doing a full Bob Ross painting in just black and white. And I mean, obviously it was the same as all his other work. It just didn't have any color, and there were no such things really as computers. So certainly not for public use or for private use in a home. So he did the best he could with the tools that he had. But I know when I heard that, because I'm fully colorblind, and I just immediately just looked up from what I was doing and stared at the screen for the entire episode. But I knew what the guy was asking. The question was really, I can't see color. How can I possibly do color? Because he already knew that he could just do black and white. It's the obvious answer. What the guy wanted to do was color, actual color. How can I color? And it wasn't until Photoshop came out that lets you import images and do color picking tools to grab the RGB over here to actually paint in color, even though I have no idea what it actually looks like to people that can. So, and I think what that did was that set in my mind an idea that, I can't do color. At best, I can do black and white. And then I started getting into pencil illustrations, and then I started doing professional work in that manner. And that was very satisfying and fulfilling for a while. But one of my friends challenged me to try to figure out how to actually paint in color. And then I got Photoshop, and then the tablets came out. And then it was like, this is the answer that I was looking for since I was 5. And so I have these crazy aspirations and dreams that I'd become popular enough as a streamer and be able to have people just look at this, not just for the quality of the art, but to be able to really promote. Like, I know there's colorblind people out there that want to color, that want to be as good as other people that aren't broken. And so the real dream, and I would in no way assume I would ever achieve this, but to get to a point where people could just tune into the shit that I do. And it's like, I don't think there's a lot of colorblind people out there that aspire to doing painting like this. But for those that do, they may think about these ideas, or they don't, and they just never thought about it. But if they do, I want them to be able to find these things so that they can know that they can actually do this stuff, that it's possible. And so long-term silent prayer is that folks can catch hold of this, and if they know people that are colorblind that want to be artists and feel like equals and not feel inferior for what the disadvantages that they just naturally have, that it doesn't fucking matter, that we can overcome our challenges, and the technology lets us get there. Anyway, I kind of got sappy there for a second. Sorry. So that's the dream. That's the dream. To be a good enough artist, or to have enough popularity or fame or whatever, to get enough momentum and notoriety that I can advocate for colorblind artists and have that be a community and just help them figure out the tools that they need to be able to get to where they want to get to on their own without having to feel like they've been handed a crappy deck. So yeah, maybe I do need to start making that part of my intro. It's in the description that I feed about chromatopsia and stuff like that. But maybe that should just be part of my intro plate. Hey, I don't see color. If you know anyone that doesn't see color but wants to be an artist, just get them over here. There are a few Facebook groups for like game design where they do like color checks. It's like, hey, can you guys see this stuff? And I talk about like gray tone all the time. Like, if you can tell the difference between your pieces in black and white, then you can apply whatever color you want to that black and white rendering, and it's going to be okay for any. Like, if me as a fully colorblind person can distinguish the values, the gray value of like the 4 different type of meeples that you have for your tabletop game or your board game, then it's going to read fine for the different types of color blindness on top of it. I think I just ran out of. Did I just run out of channel? Oh no, it's just gotta. Oh yep, I think that was the last. Nope. I'm gonna go to all tracks. This guy's too good. His name is Bureaucrat. Oh no, he's only got a few pieces. Oh, that's a shame. I'm gonna pause that and then switch the beat. Nah, I listened to that one before. Let's go. Let's do this one. Let's see how this one plays. Oh, this guy's got a ton of content. Cool. Let's see if it's chill or not. Oh yeah, I'm feeling the wind. I enjoy the irony of being the lead on the leading edge of couture design involving color mana mechanics for Dungeons and Dragons. Just the irony of me being colorblind and being deeply invested just in the concepts of color. It tickles me. It really just tickles me. I think I'm going to take a mental break from this piece, and I'm going to let's look at color mechanics. Let's look at how this stuff works. So I'm going to collapse all this stuff. God, that is looking freaking awesome. This is going to be a great piece when it's done. There's a little bit too much energy being pulled over here, so I think I'm going to have to rebalance the piece a little bit. I'm going to waste my time on that here for a minute. Here, and no, not the front. That, catch, and ally. I'm going to pull them a bit because they're on page just a little bit more, and then I'm going to drop the ally down a little bit so it's not competing as much against Leonin. There. And then I'm going to drop the opacity on him just a touch. So it fades out a touch. And then since I got this border going on here, I want to grab these back pieces. I think I want to pull them here a little bit just to rebalance the piece a little bit. Cool. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to take a tangent real quick, and let's look at introduction. So we got the 5 color mana symbols here, which you got fire, water, air, earth, and then if you're using color mana, you've got red, green, and blue. The master chart here is elemental disciplines. The way of the 4 elements, you've got about a dozen different things that you can learn, or you can know. Like you learn them, and then that's what you have, and then each level you can switch it out, but it stays constant. One of the major design principles for this Way of the 4 Monks redesign is to give them preparation, like a paladin. And so one of the biggest problems, biggest complaints people have about Way of the 4 Elements is that it's so expensive because there's so much limited key. So you can't afford to spend it. So right off the cuff, you gain this at 3rd level. You've already got key at second level. So off the cuff, one of the fastest solutions that you have is make it prep, so you can decide what you know from long rest to long rest. You can switch out your repertoire of spells, give it the same progression that paladins use using wisdom. So you've got one per level, one per every other level, so half your character level plus your wisdom modifier equals a total of potential 15 disciplines that you can have prepared on your list. And unorthodox for prepared casters is having cantrips that you can prepare. So and cantrips don't cost any spell slots or mana or anything to use. So starting at level 3, you can, well, just step back for a second. There's elemental key and there's color key. So there's air, earth, fire, water, and there's blue, red, and green. And so each discipline corresponds to a spell. I'll talk about costs. I'll talk about locking and duration later. But here's the key cost for each of them, and then here's the book that they're in for you to find. And if it's a monk ability, if it says monk, then it's a discipline that's listed in the description of the Way of the Four Elements in the player's handbook. So everything's pretty straightforward there. So some spells are devoted to multiple elements or multiple colors, and you pick which paradigm you want. If you're playing 5-color mana, like core mechanics, you're doing MTG stuff, like if you want to play Gruul, or like if you want to have Prismari, for example, then you could do like blue-red, or if you want to go, Quandrix is blue-green. You could have an elemental monk using Strixhaven schools, and you can still develop these things. So, or you could just, if you don't like color mana at all, there's so many elemental books that are on the DM's guilds, like elemental mages, elemental clerics, druids, sorcerers. You can implement elemental mana instead of color mana or generic spell points or spell slots, whatever. But each spell, depending on what it is devoted to a number of different. It's called devotion. Like for example, Earth here, Magic Stone is. Let's not look at cantrips. Like for example, Blur, Haze of the Morning Fog. Blur. It's a second level spell. Blur as mist or fog, it's devoted to air or water, air and water. So when you want to cast that spell, you can use key that's either devoted to air or water, or both if you want. It doesn't matter, but as long as you have one of either, you can cast the spell. If you don't have any air or water mana or key, then you can't cast it. But there's enough disciplines of each element that you have at most 15 of them. You could be nothing but a firebender, and you just pick all the fire stuff as you go down the line. Or you could be a waterbender, and you just go down the line and pick all the water stuff. And if you're doing color mechanics, like if you want to be a priest of Thassa in Theros, then you could just devote yourself to blue if you wanted. There's those different those thematic options, and at the very highest level of least integration, you just keep generic key or keep generic spell points, and you describe Blur as a blue spell, or describe Blur as a water discipline, and then you just use your descriptive language in game as I'm manipulating water to create this mist effect, or I'm tapping into my blue magic and I'm creating this mist effect. But as long as you have one of the mana or elements, as long as you have one available, you would use that mana to cast a spell, and when you run out of that element, then you can't do that anymore. So like really low levels, you want to focus on a single element. At third level, you only have 3 mana, so maybe you just want to go with fire as your dedicated dedicated mana, so as your dedicated element, so that you're just staying in line with, you'll always be able to have mana for the things that you've chosen to be able to do. But as you gain levels and you get more and more key, you can diversify and master more elements, but you can prepare them. So today I can be nothing but fire, tomorrow I could be air and wind. So you have a lot of flexibility, and every time you regain your key, you switch how much you want. So if you have 10 key and you burn all your key, and then you take your short rest and you get all your key back, you could say, you could just recalibrate how many ki you want. It's like, right now I'm going to have all fire, but as soon as we finish a short rest, I'm going to switch it out and put half of that energy, half of that ki into water, for example. And you can adapt it as you go with a short or a long rest. And then so then looking again at the flexibility of it, if you have since you can learn stuff, and like at 3rd level you could have like 1 plus, like, let's say your wisdom's 16, so you can prepare up to 4 disciplines. And cantrips don't cost anything, but they scale. So if you never want to spend ki and be a firebender, then you can just take, well, let's look at what's available with fire. You could have Produce Flame, you could have Shocking Grasp, you can have Elemental Attunement and Control Flames. That's 4 disciplines right there that won't ever cost you any ki, but will continue to scale as you gain levels. So like Shocking Grasp at 17th level is 48 lightning damage. And it knocks out reactions. So if you don't want to spend ki and screw up an enemy wizard from casting counter spell as a reaction, just Shocking Grasp him. And you then still have the way that the here, I'll geek out real quick and let's get into alternate class features here real quick. I think it's the page. Nope, not the page. Hold on. Here. Let's go to, what page is it? Here. Yeah, the page we were working on. Let's see, Flurry of Attacks. So I modified, because it's Couture design and it's how I work. You replace Flurry of Blows with Flurry of Attacks. So as a bonus action, you can burn 1 ki, like usual, to make 2 melee attacks with any light weapon. It's a bonus action, just like you used to. It's either unarmed attacks or a light weapon that you're holding and proficient with. So you could theoretically throw daggers or any light monk weapon that you have, or unarmed strikes you can use as a bonus action. But using the mechanics, I'll talk about locking and tapping ki in a minute, but it allows you to lock in and like maintain concentration on Flurry of Blows, and while you maintain concentration, it becomes your spell-like effect. So you can continue to do Flurry of Blows each round as a bonus action while you maintain that, while you maintain the Flurry of Attacks. So, and this decouples it from being like you don't have to follow up your action. Like you make your attack, and that's the only time you can then follow it with a Flurry of Blows. This is independent, so you could do Shocking Grasp and then knock out your enemy wizard from being able to counterspell you, and it still leaves Flurry of Attacks open, so you can still, blip blip and cause damage to people on the battlefield. Or you could do Flurry of Attacks first, and like if you fail your stunning strikes, you could then follow up with an attack and just do Shocking Grasp. So you've got a lot of flexibility there. I'll dive into this stuff as I go. I just wanted to geek out there for a minute. But yeah, as you go up in levels, you gain, different stuff, and it has the exact same here. Let's look at here. It's got the same progression as Halfcasters do, as a Paladin and a Ranger does: 2, 5, 9, 13, 17. And if you're familiar with my mana mechanic system overall, if you're a normal long rest mana recharger using the mechanics that I use, it's 1 mana or 1 ki per level of spell that you cast. So a 3rd level spell costs 3 mana. But instead of getting 65 spell points or 64 spell points from the DMG, a Paladin would get at 20th level 40 mana. And it scales almost identically. It just costs less because Wizards made it difficult on purpose. Because they don't like spell casting. If they made it this simple, everyone would be like, why the hell do we have spell slots? It's like, well, let's make it complicated so people don't want spell slots. That's my own conspiracy theory. But when you only make it one mana per level, it still balances out. So using that progression and then looking at the chart, you know that a 5th level discipline is going to cost 5 keys. So you can do them 4 times before you burn out of mana, and then you gotta take your short rest. Easy peasy. So if you want to do Cone of Cold, you want to be focused on being an airbender, then you got Control Wind and Cold to Cold and Storm Sphere. a lot of lightning bolt. These are all expensive spells that if that's the aesthetics and the flavor that you want, you have it in your back pocket. And if you just want to focus on that one element and be devoted only to air, then you've got plenty of resources available for you to do it. That's the general philosophy. And if that's as far as you want to take it, then that's as far as you need to take it. But you can dive in further. We can go further down the rabbit hole and really get into Tap Untap Burn mechanics. But before we go there, I'm just going to look at the way of the 4 elements. The default player's handbook is you get these spells and that's it. They thought that Monk was balanced enough on its own as a kit that they didn't need to give you other class features on top of the spells that they gave you access to. They thought that spells was good enough, but monks are half casters, and they don't have anything better than monks are basically like somewhere between ranger and paladin as far as its basic frame is concerned, except for stunning strike screwed stuff up. But stunning strike is arguably as good as an aura that gives you a charisma bonus to all your saving throws. In my perspective, that's about a balance. So I consider monks to be about on par with a paladin as far as power levels are concerned. And so a paladin gets a full kit of prepared spells, and they get class features with their archetype. So I implemented that same philosophy. I built out the half-casting progression, and there's more than 15 per element or per color. So you always have more options than memorization available. So you can always pick and choose what you want, or you can mix them up. But that still means you need class features, just like the paladin gets class features. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee and calm down for a second. So 3, 6, 11, and 17 are where your progressions are. So 3rd level is Elemental Smite, talking paladins here. Starting at 3rd level, when you hit with a creature with an unarmed or melee attack, you can burn ki devoted to any element up to your max ki limit, which is 1 to 5. To deal additional damage equal to the result of one of the martial arts die for each point of ki burned this way. This damage can be of any elemental type devoted to the ki burned. And you can see here's the matrix. If you're an airbender, you can do cold, lightning, or thunder damage. If you're an earthbender, sorry Seymour, but you got thunder. Earthquakes and stuff, tremors. That's the narrative behind thunder. Shockwaves, like shatter. Fire has fire and lightning, very Avatar Airbender. And then water can deal cold damage. And then if you're using color instead, then you got blue, green, blue, red, green. Like thunder is blue, red, green. Lightning is red. Fire is red. Cold is blue and green. So that's consistent. And then so as an example, using just monk progression at 5th level, you're rolling a d6 martial arts die. So when you if you burn 2 ki, 1 earth and 1 water, you're going to add 2d6 damage, but that damage could be either cold or thunder because you have earth and water. Earth has only thunder and water has only cold. So if you burn 2 ki, 1 is earth and 1 is water, you can choose either element. If instead you burn only 2 points of fire, you can still choose between either fire or lightning damage. So you can play into what your enemy you're fighting or what aesthetics that you want. And then at 6th, so if that makes sense, at 6th level, we're looking at Elemental Grace, which is when you finish a short or a long rest, you choose one type of elemental damage from cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, and you are now resistant to that damage type. And you can choose a new type of elemental damage when you finish a short or long rest, or on the fly when you burn 2 ki as a bonus action to do so. So if you want to switch it up, you can. I think I need to potentially change the language on this because of what I did with... I made this as flexible because at low levels it's really mean. But here's your 11th level feature, which is Irresistible Elements, which is kind of borrowing off of Elemental Bane and the Elemental Adept feats, but just coding them into class features, which isn't unusual. Irresistible Elements at 11th level, when you finish a short or a long rest, you can choose one type of damage, either cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. Your class features and disciplines ignore resistance to damage of that chosen type. So if I'm a firebender, and I'm now regretting that I'm fighting a red dragon, I can instead I can use my Irresistible Elements to key myself to be able to deal fire damage even to things that are resistant or immune to fire damage. Creatures that are immune to the chosen type of damage type are instead resistant to your class features and disciplines that deal that type of damage. This is already inside the game. I'm just making it a class feature that totally makes sense. If I am a strong firebender, I can burn you out anyway, even if you're immune to it. I will sear you to the ground. And then as a bonus action, you can burn 3 ki and choose a new type of damage, and the damage can be of any type of elemental type devoted to that ki. So if I want to make my fire an irresistible element, I could burn 1 ki that's fire, and then the other 2 can be whatever. It's just you have to pay the 3 ki to as a gatekeeper, and then at least one of those ki has to be the element that you want. So it might make sense for me to make Elemental Grace the same way, but 6th level you only have 6 ki, so I thought it would be nice to not place that requirement on you. But at 11th level, if you're wanting to change these things on the fly, I'm going to make it cost you a little bit more. So and worth noting, the amount of ki that these things are costing scales with your half casting levels. So at 6th level you can cast 2nd level spells. Your max ki limit is 2 at 5th level, so this costs 2 to redo it, which stays in curve with what your power scale is. You're not breaking it. So that's Irresistible Elements. And then your capstone feature is Elemental Avatar. And this is interesting. So at 17th level, as an action, you can assume an elemental avatar form of your choice from the options below, taking on an appearance of your choice. You choose, for example, you might be wreathed in flames, or your skin may take on a rock-like texture. You can remain in this form for up to 1 minute, very similar to Avatar, the transformations that paladins get. And as an action, you can change which form you assume during your turn on later rounds. You can choose this feature once. You can use this feature once, regain it when you finish a long rest. So what these avatars are, they're just the what are they called? The investitures, the investiture spells. They're 6th level spells. So even though your max level is your max ki limit is 5, your capstone feature gives you a 6th level spell, which you can use using normal mechanics. You can cast a 6th level spell once per day. So this stays in alignment with that progression. It doesn't cost ki because your max ki limit is 5, and investiture is a 6th level spell, but it's a capstone feature, so you can use it. You can use it once per day, and it lasts a minute. And then you can switch between Avatar of Ice, Avatar of Flame. I'm going to switch pages. And then you've got the Avatar of Wind, Avatar of Stone, and here you can see me illustrating characters that are fighting, Earth versus Air. These can be better, but they're still works in progress. But this is just the investitures. So if you look up Investiture of Wind, you'll see it's the same thing. The same thing here. It's just I just changed the name because it's a class feature. So that's your capstone, and that just seems to make a lot of sense. But you can switch between them. So like if you just want to be a firebender, you would only use the Avatar of Flame to stay in flavor. But if you're a Gruul bend, like if you're a Gruul monk that uses red-green mana, then this you can just switch between elements as you please, because narratively that connects with what you actually want to do. So let's see. Next up is Tap Untap Burn mechanics. So variants here: tapping key, combining key, durations. I will hold off on talking about that stuff further until another time, like the next stream or so maybe. But even if you don't want to use any of the Tap Untap Burn mechanics and you just want to use normal key, normal D&D rules, everything I've described up to this point, the first 6 pages, is completely good to go right out of the box and works alongside anything that's in the player's handbook just fine. So I will save Tap Untap Burn mechanics for another stream, but I just want to get back. To work. So if someone jumps on and they say they want to take a look at this stuff, be welcome to ping me, and I'll spend more time on it. Let's see. Still going. It's 12:10. I got another 20 some odd minutes, so let's just stay in it. What do you mean? You're missing a lot of info. I still got, it looks like I still have a little bit of latency, but hopefully it's not too bad. Did you want me to talk about Tap Untap Burn mechanics? I can take the, if you're interested, I can take the time. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep painting. Yeah, right on, man. I will dive into the Tap Untap Burn mechanic. Well, what's gonna end up happening when I actually finish all the illustrations and I publish the right before I publish the book, I'm going to do a non-live stream, just recording a walkthrough of the book, just to talk about all the mechanics that go into it, and then I'll have that in the product page. It's like, you want to learn about this stuff, here, check out, you know, here's me talking about it for 45 minutes or whatever. So, and then hopefully you'll have a higher level of production than me just rambling. But yeah, super excited about this, and this sets the stage for like a lot of the like I have a bunch of alternate class features that use Tap Untap Burn mechanics in general that just let you do other things, and those are listed. Those are in the later pages, and this is setting the stage for me to rebuild all the monk archetypes. Like I think the next one that I'm really excited about redoing is the Kinsei. But what I think what'll be the most fun, like the most interesting one from a mana mechanics perspective, is going to be the Monk of Shadow, because then you'll be able to use like black and blue mana or Shadow Key to be able to trigger effects and do stuff like this. It'll have another, you know, half casting progression, but it won't have as many elements to deal with. It's just shadow magic, or blue and black mana. So it's gonna be a lot more efficient for you to choose which features that you want. But I can do all sorts of shadow stuff, like making Shadow Blade one of your spells to cast with black magic. That just makes sense. But it's obviously Wizards isn't going to go back and rebuild the Shadow Monk. So, well, maybe they will with 5.5. We'll see. But I seriously doubt they're going to go in the direction that I go in. So I can build all these little couture pieces, and since all the mechanics of how it works, I can just cut and paste it from this document into a Shadow Monk document, and it'll be a lot faster to produce. So I can just kick in the mechanics, cut paste all the abilities, all the tech that goes in that got edited and stuff, and then just carry on, and I'll be able to crack those out, like Drunken Master, Kinsei, Open Hand. That's going to be one book, and then Shadow Monks might be its own piece. All of them, I can do the same sort of couture design with all of them, and there might not be, honestly, much of an audience for these conversions, but that's not the point. The point is, I get to do artwork. I get to do artwork, and I get to talk about these ideas and build stock art from it all. That obviously, you know, people can pick up on. So it's not a waste of time for me to build these ultra specific build options, because it's just an excuse for me to make more art. That was always the plan. Just, it's an excuse. And then ultimately, I'll be able to move things like a Boros book or whatever. It would never sell in the DMsGuild. but it'd be something fun I can do as a live stream to build out like a Boros Reckoner. I could spend an hour on stream with folks and just build that out and then make artwork for it and make it available to my patrons. But all the mechanics are already on DMsGuild, so you can grab the mechanics and then you can go to my Patreon and grab like the Book of Witherbloom would be black and green mechanics, and it might not be very profitable for me to make that book on the DMsGuild, but since I have all the mechanics about blue-black mana already there, just go look at the free preview, get all the mechanics, and then come back to the Patreon and apply the community designed Strixhaven archetypes for like druid and wizard and bard and whatever else that you wanted to do. I can make a wizard. I can make a withered bloom robe if I wanted, whatever. But once the mechanics are published, they're there for people to look at, and if you want to pay for them, that'd be great. But they're free to preview. So I can preview them so that everyone can just grab the book if they want and support me through DMsGuild if they choose, or they can just jump into the. I'll have a link to them on my Patreon, of course, and you can view them for free. But you can jump on board the Patreon and design stuff with me. So, but I can't get serious about doing that design idea until I get all these mechanics published. So that's what I'm doing. I'm building out all these mechanics to be able to have them published for reference, so I can start really doing what I want to do, which is live stream design, live stream illustration of those designs, build a Discord community with people that are interested in having this kind of fun, and just build together. So that's the dream. That is the dream. And it'll probably take me another year or so to get there, but with the stuff that I'm building right now, once they're all implemented, I can be content with what's been constructed and then switch into solo gear. And I've already done a whole book on warlocks for Ravnica, and that project was awesome to do. Of course, that's also the preview is 100% free to view, and it's appreciated when people purchase it, but they don't have to. But that is a really good example of a deep dive into MTG lore converted into D&D mechanics, but it's so niche that it doesn't have a broad audience appeal. It's the slowest book to gain a medal. I mean, it hasn't even medaled yet, and it's the slowest book that I produced. Like, it's taking longer for that book to gain a medal, a top seller medal, than any of the other pieces that I've built. So that proves to me that if you hyper specialize on the DMsGuild, it won't sell. But I'm going to eventually accumulate an audience that loves that stuff, and I'd be an obvious go-to to hang out with on stream and on the Discord to build these things with. And since it won't be tied up in the DMsGuild, there's no motivation for me to put it on DMsGuild because it doesn't sell. So why would I bother? But it's a fun thing to do with a community. If like you hang out on Indestructiboy's Discord server, we maybe like once a month or so, I end up getting into a conversation with a team about, hey, what would this kind, like the last one I did was an Earthquake barbarian build, and once my man mechanics for barbarians comes out, then I could easily just point at that and says, hey, you can implement Earth mana, Earth key to add to your barbarian build. But it's a perfect example of us just having a crazy idea, and then over the course of an hour or two, I think is all it took for us to build out an Earthquake themed archetype for a barbarian that's super fun, super cool. And I don't have any reason to publish it on DMsGuild because it would never sell, but it would be super fun to make artwork for it and then post it up as as a Discord type of thing. So there's the world has blessed us creators to be able to implement ideas like that and to use tools that our corporate master Wizard of the Coast has implemented in OBS on DMsGuild, but still allow us to deep dive and build the kind of community that we want. So I should be putting this up so my head is up. Like this is at the bottom of the page, so I'm all like crouched down. I'm gonna end up getting a broken back from doing that. So let's just dive in further here. But I am really excited about the Martial Powers book of Martial Mana Mechanics is coming along really well. We resolved how to have it scale across martial classes equally for like fighter, rogue, as well as paladin, ranger, monks. It's a unifying book of mechanics that any of them can tap into and use instead of spells in their progression. And it's solid. It's got an easy scaffolding. We're just working on building out different concentration effects versus instant effects, and that's going to probably come out next year. Probably around this time next year is when I expect that to publish. And at that point, that should be pretty much the last color mechanic books that I need to produce to be able to start streaming and building an audience. So hopefully over the course of the next year, I'll be able to build some YouTube momentum here. And once I transition into that, we'll be able to hit the ground running with a lot of interest and a lot of resources available for us to do it meaningfully on a weekly basis. So I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, ramble, future plans. Talking about my future. It's kind of cool. But that is to say, I'm really looking forward to where this is all going to go. And I'm only in my 40s. I've got decades ahead of me to be able to have these conversations and play and just get better at doing artwork. Art is such a fulfilling endeavor because you only get better in time. And as your body ages and fails, if I'm good at preparing for that potential inevitability, then I'll just get better at building things quicker and more efficiently and become more expressive with my brush strokes so that I can express more with less time, so that I don't have to worry about being fatigued at 70. Like I might only be able to do artwork for an hour or two at a time before I need to rest. But 30 years from now, I should be able to. It shouldn't be an issue for me to be able to crack out some kick-ass art in zero time. So it's worth continuing the effort of pursuing with the endeavor of just getting better. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about the future. Get these Hakama made. I'm essentially just making Hakama for this guy. That's basically what this is coming down to. Nope, wrong button. Here we go. I think one of the interesting, how to put it, an interesting comment about publishing your ideas on DMsGuild or Drive, not so much Drive through RPG, because that's stuff that you actually own yourself as a publisher, but the using Wizards of the Coast IP on DMsGuild, you aren't the owner. You aren't the owner of the IP. You're using them as a publisher, and you're using their ideas, so it captures your ideas inside of the DMsGuild platform. And so a lot of people, when they're publishing stuff, their perspective is, I don't want to show the whole thing because I don't want people to steal my work. And I mean, maybe I'm daring the devil on this comment, but all my stuff I post 100% free preview. It's not pay what you want. It's a set dollar point. You have to pay X dollars to own the document, but you can read the entire thing for free. And there's an ongoing debate among people about whether that is the proper way to market or present your the supplements that you're producing, because people can steal them, quote unquote. You're allowing people to steal them if they want. And here's my comments about that. If you were to publish this in a library, or if it were to be published in a bookstore and it was carried as a hard copy, people would be able to thumb through the entire book and decide to pay for it or not. Walking away from the store with it is them choosing to invest in you and in your ideas with dollars. So it's easier for you to anonymously take the product without paying for it online. But that hasn't slowed down any of the medals that I've earned from people that honestly recognize this is true. And for the most part, people are honest. And if it's something that they legitimately appreciate and are like, I want this in my library, I want to be able to reference this. This is something I hope to use someday, they will pay for it. And if they don't want to use it, they shouldn't have to pay for it first and get angry that it isn't what they wanted. So I don't get 1-star reviews. Why would you buy my book after reading it? And if you don't like it, why would you then purchase it to give me a 1-star review? That's stupid. So it's easier just to give it to them to look at. And if they actually want it, then they will buy it, and they will invest in your ideas and give you money to encourage you, just like in the Patreon, just to keep doing it. But then on top of that, the bigger picture is, as I've been talking about, if you make something 100% preview, you can reference it without requiring people to purchase it. I could post this elemental key on Patreon, and if I had 500 Patreon supporters that were willing to spend $1 a month for my ideas just to encourage me to keep doing it, that's a $500 buy on this book right away. I don't have to publish it on a DMsGuild, but I also don't have to print all the mechanics in the Patreon book. You can go just grab it off of DMsGuild and look at it. And it's like, oh, this is how Color Mana works. Great. I'm going to be a $1 Patreon subscriber on Phil's account because Phil is creating MTG content using Color Mana for D&D every month. Easy peasy. And that's completely legal. Like I can't publish stuff on a Patreon account and then also publish it on DMsGuild. That's having more than one publisher, you and Wizards of the Coast, and that is a copyright violation. And honestly, they spent millions of dollars producing this content and these ideas, and it's only fair that they are the publisher and that they get their dollars for what they produced. And if I expect to get dollars for what I produce, then I have to be transparent, and it has to work both ways. I can't steal from Wizards to produce my own content and expect people to pay for it. That is dishonest. If I expect to get ahead, I have to have a level of integrity that's more than, like, I get that a lot of content producers on Patreon steal Magic the Gathering art to illustrate their work, and that as a community content thing that they're not charging you to get, they can use all that content, and that's fine. But it just as an artist, that really just sticks in my craw. Like Jeremy Essing, who does Magic Gathering cards, his stuff is used in God knows how many Reddit fan subs that want to have good looking art but don't want to pay for it. They can justifiably just take it, and he'll never get paid for that stuff. So that just rubs me wrong. So I am blessed that I'm an artist that can produce maybe not card level quality, but give me another 20 years and I will. Granted, they might not be willing to pay me what I would want to get paid for that level of quality, especially if I've got a Patreon account that's paying me a couple $1,000s a month to do the artwork on my own anyway for them. Maybe I'd want it, maybe I wouldn't. We'll see. But I don't want to think that I'm less than because Wizards hasn't chosen me over somebody in Indonesia that will produce the same level of quality for 1/10 the price. That's really the lure for artists to have a Patreon, because they can never here in America we can't compete with the foreign market's cost of living. Like if I wanted, like, the standard of living that I have here in America costs 25% the monthly budget to be in Brazil, for instance. It costs virtually nothing to have this lifestyle in other countries than it does in America. It just so happens I live in America, so these are the prices I have to pay unless I want to leave the country, and I'm not ready to do that yet. If I build a Patreon or a passive stream income that's going to pay me $4,000 a month, then yeah, I could move to Spain. I could brush up on my Spanish, and I could live at half the cost. And that if I build this right, maybe over the next 10 years, that's a viable option, and I can afford to have a good lifestyle on a much smaller budget that I can control independently of myself. That's a worthwhile dream, and one that I suspect I'll end up pursuing. So it's just, but in the meantime, you really got to pay. You got to be willing to respect who's making these things possible, and the people that are making this possible right now is Wizards of the Coast. So I just want to. Anyway, I am super rambling, and it's not nothing I haven't rambled about in the past on Discord, but I'm new here on YouTube, so I share my philosophies, and that's the kind of stuff that I ramble about. Adjusting to leggings. But yeah, if you aren't afraid of sharing your content, if the content you're producing is stuff that you can extrapolate other items from, then that's a good use of publishing on the DMsGuild. If my book of color mechanics on DMsGuild allows you to build out of any card set at all, then that's something smart to put on the DMsGuild. But like I said, like a book of Ravnica Warlocks ended up not being a good gamble. It's too niche to really ever be big on the DMsGuild marketing on a individual purchase. But as a Patreon, it's freaking great. Anyway, super ranting. This is the kind of business mindset that hanging out with high quality producers allows you to adopt. And like the DMsGuild Discord, the DMsGuild Facebook channel and Reddit, there's a lot of smart people that are providing good answers, and this is the kind of philosophy that lets you build off of IPs that exist already into your own business. So if you're into content production like that, it's use the tools that are out there to let you leverage into building those sort of things. Ramble, body blah. I'll probably talk about that bullet point like over and over again. So I don't think people think that way. But they should. Build something that you can do more things with, and what those more things with can be your own independent products. Use the platform of OBS to reach a broad audience, to build reputation and clout, and then take that and then create your own things from it on your own channel. So we're at 12:30. I'm supposed to stop stream soon. I'm gonna give it like another 5-10 minutes here. I like having this. I figured out this image thing here down in the corner, and I like having that down there because I can now tell like if I'm completely tilting myself into my screen, and I rarely pay attention to that. I just kind of like fall into a piece eventually as I focus on it more and more. So it's really great to have this camera up and running, not only for engagement, but for me to keep checking myself, make sure that I'm treating my eyes with as much respect as I hope to treat the audience. But I am almost done streaming for the day, and it's been super fun doing it. I love where this is at. I love where it's heading. God, what a fun piece! This is going to be probably one of the standout pieces for the set. So, but okay. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pull the plug. And boy, I would just really appreciate anybody that swings by and takes a look at this. And thanks for being part of the process. If you know anyone that's colorblind and they aspire to be an artist, seriously, have them check this out. Have them reach out to me on Twitter. Subscribe, tell your mother. And I'm going to go ahead and cut stream. So I'm going to catch you guys later. Thanks a lot for taking all the time.